committee meeting to consider the Teaching Council Act 2022. The meeting is now to order. Thank you, Member Hamilton. Thank you so much. And can we ask you to remember Hamilton?
Yes. Let us pray.
Morning, everyone. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for everything that you've done. We thank you for sparing our life to bring safely to this inn. As about to discuss things that will benefit your people, we ask that you come by here, be it our thoughts or our actions or deeds. You, the chairman, give our insight as customary to lead committee, satisfy your people is our prayer. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Member Miller. Are there any apologies for absence? Take it there are no. All right, so let me just everyone again, and we will move straight into the confirmation of the minutes and matters arising from the minutes. You go through the minutes, you will note that in bold, at the end of the different sections, indicates matters we sought clarification on, matters that were deferred, carried over into this week's meeting. So we'll start out page 1. And with regards to clause 35, you will note that the chairman noted Senator Brown's request for clarification was deferred to Dr. Gordon for further consideration. And clause 35 relates to the need for background check, a police record provided. So Dr. Gordon, please make note of that. Once we get into the business, you can back to us with clarification. For clause 34, this was to be a redraft proposal. Right, so this was referred to the technical team for further consideration. So technical team, don't know if you're ready with that. But again, when we get into the meat of the matter, we will take that. So continue on page 3. Any corrections? Page. You'll note as well for clause 24, the committee further proposal to the technical team for further consideration, and clause 24. All right, I'm not seeing exactly the consideration that we're for, but I know the technical team would have the details. Moving on to the disqualifying offenses, you will note that the committee agreed to accept proposed provision for the Constitution. It's a list of disqualifying offenses. We'll move to clause 36 2D and clause 37 2D. Please note, proposal is still under condition by the technical team. Towards the end, page 4, clause 38, there was a call for the regulations to be made a high priority, and that there was alignment with the bill. Of course, there has to be, if it's because the regulations are from the bill. 5, are no corrections, we'll move on. Page 6. There was an agreement to remove subclause 5 and 6 with reference clause 35 for further action. Subclause 38.3, it was agreed that that should be deleted. Subclause 38.4, the committee agreed to change the term statutory declaration to voluntary declaration. We'll continue on page 10.
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Just to point out at clause 44, the top.
Right, say, I'm sorry. Go on,
Clause-
say who is speaking. For
Clause
benefit of the
44.
line.
Clause 44,
Mm-hmm.
the correction should be a correct to state that committee did not accept recommendation from the technical team to insert another clause which dealt with transferability and assignability of lines or authorization to teach, and not validity of lines and authorization to teach as currently stated.
Thank you. That's noted, duly noted. We'll continue on page 7. There's another clause deferred for further consideration. If you look down, subclause 43.2b1. All right, we'll move to page 8. Again, this matter, 45, was deferred for further consideration by the technical. Okay. All right. So have a member accept the minutes? Members online? Acceptance of the minutes?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay. Seconded?
Seconded.
Aye. Okay, Senator Brown. Thank you, Member Brown.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Brown.
My apology for late.
All right. So we don't deal with the confirmation of the minutes and matters arising from the minutes. So we will.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I didn't realize you were also doing matter. I thought you were just doing correction because I had two hours.
Please go ahead, Member.
Okay, thank you. And maybe it's due to my absence from the last meeting, which was unavoidable. But I didn't understand why 38.3 was being removed. That's one question. And the second question is, in the fourth schedule, where in the fourth schedule, section 1A, as written, it meets the section made by Minister Green, and I wish the minutes didn't reflect it, that it was a suggestion by Minister Green. It's already in the bill, implied in fourth schedule 1A, that a criminal record is compulsory. I know that we're saying no, unless I'm misunderstanding that it's only if asked for or requested to be done versus for all persons to get a license. I'm just trying to understand the rationale behind that in my absence from the last meeting. And again, I apologize for having had to be absent. To summarize, 38.3, why are we removing it? And fourth schedule 1A implies that a criminal check was already written in the bill as something necessary. Why are we removing that?
Michelin, will you be able to respond to that?
May I respond, Minna?
Please go ahead, Dr. Gordon.
Miss Wilkins made the recommendation. I give a justification for it. If she's online, I appreciate that she repeats what she said.
Sorry, justification for which of two things, Ms. Gordon?
The removal of 38.3.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Having come online, Dr. Gordon, I need to catch. Sorry, which provision are you looking at?
I was asking why 3 was being removed.
Why?
33.
33.
Was recommended for removal.
38. Yeah, because that runs contrary to the entire purpose of the entire purpose of the Criminal Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, which had an express provision that once really expungement occurred, it is as if that person had offended. So it is not.
That I understand, but I would then suggest a rewording as a removal, because again, a non-loyally reading, so I stand to be corrected, is written now. It's an applicant shall disclose to the particulars of any spent conviction. It doesn't say about any convictions. It's not clear to me that it's for convictions that have been expunged. And maybe again, it's
I remember it is the reference act that would point to that it is specifically referencing the Criminal Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, and right. All that act is about.
Right. Then, but what I'm saying then is, what in the act? Please remind me. What in that allows for disclosure by those whose records have not been expunged? Just remind me.
No. But if a person's record has been expunged, then when the criminal record check is done, there is submitted to them, so would indicate to counsel that there is a record.
What if it's outside the Jamaican? What if it's outside the jurisdiction? So that's one. And number two, if we are saying, if my reading of the minutes were correct, that everyone will not have to give a record check. How do we handle that?
No. They will still the criminal record, but it will not reflect that conviction for which expungement has been granted. That's what it won't show.
So the minutes that are incorrect, or reading it wrong? My reading of the minutes could I be corrected by Mr. Brandon or someone else? But my reading of the minutes, because I was not in it, I got the impression that the suggestion was all teachers not have to do a criminal record check.
Okay. Yes. I think I would need that would need to be explained that.
I will respond to it. Yes. Thank you very much. Chair? May I?
Yes, please go, Dr. Gunn.
The dialogue on criminal records check, public discussion, teachers and other stakeholders, for some persons, all the teachers, since the early childhood teachers need to get criminal records checked, then all teachers need to get that check. So it ended up going into the bill, and on hindsight, now that they are going through the final stages of the discussion, they realized that the purpose put in the criminal codes for early childhood teachers does not really exist for teachers from primary level up. That's one. Secondly, the criminal record, the criminal experiences of the professionals is 0.0001% of the profession. This record or this data point to the fact that there is no need for the TT to go through the process of a criminal records check, because criminal activity within the profession extremely low, almost negligible.
So, Madam Chair, based on what Ms. Gordon is saying and what the person who spoke before are saying, we have removed 38.3, which asks persons to disclose, and we're removing a records check. Personally, I completely disagree, and it is 0.00008% of the profession. I believe protecting our children, that is paramount. And maybe why we have such a small number is because we have not been doing criminal checks. Data can't really be used as a justification. Right now, we do not have a criminal record, but we have cases where teachers have been found criminal level or have been charged for egregious acts and are still in the classroom. As such, I'm sorry to reopen the conversation, Madam Chair, but I do believe you cannot remove both a clause asking people to self-report and a criminal records check. We are doing justice to our children who do that.
May I suggest then that the reference to the criminal records rehabilitation of offense be removed, and that the individual instead be asked to indicate whether they have any past conviction. Just to point out, you had mentioned what is ended overseas. We do have a provision for persons who offend overseas, that record to be sent to Jamaica. And we do have individuals in Jamaica who have offended in the US and the UK and in Canada, and their records are here and would reflect on their police report.
Right, but if they're not asked to do a criminal, how will you know? And that's the point I'm making. We're removing everything. These are safeguards for our children. You're not requiring a police record check. I'm going to give you an example. I applied for something in Jamaica, and this is business oriented. I had to list the country I lived in for 6 months, and I had to request a police record from each of those countries. And not education. This is not lives of young people. So how is it then that we're going to ask not everyone who's going in profession to teach our children to not provide a police check? And it can't be based on statistics that are irrelevant based on the fact that we have not asking for police checks. So how do we even know how many persons in the classroom have criminal records?
May I say that controlling the behavior and conduct of teachers that's managed at the level of the school and the level of the board, and where a teacher found any criminal activity, it is taken up by the board, and if the teacher is to be dismissed, the board dismisses the teacher. So the system is its own watchdog. Please let me finish.
Theoretical.
I just got a police record. I just police record. I know what I went through to get the police record in Jamaica. As a police record out in France, two different experiences. Getting a police record in Jamaica, it is not a walkover. If you're going to put an entire 25,000 teachers through that process, then you must really have justification. There's no other way to get a police record or for JT to have access to a police record than for just to have a criminal record. So I contacted the legal unit of the East Department, had a discussion with them to find out how we can manage the situation. JTCC is far as the discussion went, JTCC cause should have a reason to suspect a teacher or the board sends information to the council, the records can be accessed. What we ask for is that every teacher's application must be accompanied by a consent for JTTC to make a criminal records check should become necessary, or should we have information or a reason to ask for criminal records. This is not going to go down with the profession, because we all in Jamaica know that criminal records, getting a criminal record in Jamaica is not an easy task. No, member Green pointed out that they are getting more sophisticated with records and so forth, but not is now, and it's not this year or next year. So at the end of the day, so far, our children are able, after the in full at primary level, they're able to protect themselves. And at any rate, our teachers have not any large scale at all and engaged in criminal activities. The question I ask, why 25,000 in 30,000 because it covers the private sector schools? I put 30,000 teachers through a criminal record check. You know,
the reason we put through that, Mrs. Gordon, is to protect our children. Has a teacher yet been removed from Havertree Primary? Who was convicted? Who they brought the matter to this JTC meeting a few months ago, that the teacher is still there? Do we have scam in the classroom, as shown on the media recently? I will have to support what the committee decides. I need the records to reflect that I'm completely against the decision. I do appreciate consideration for 33 to be rewritten, and I hope we can get a new version of that soon. But I do believe that I have had a police record here in Jamaica. I think it was 5 weeks ago. It was not difficult. It was absolutely not difficult. And I think what we look at instead is saying, let's get special provisions made at a certain time of year over a certain period when the relevant department that handles it sets up specific areas where this can be done. How they use the police officers club, etc., as places to do special arrangements. We can do that. But to leave our children vulnerable and to say that everybody after early childhood is taking care of themselves, no, Miss Gordon, absolutely not. We need to ensure our children are protected.
We have to protect children, and we do protect our children. But please keep in mind, you had a different experience I had in the police record, getting a police record. Eventually, I had to call and a senior policeman help me. So we have different experiences. Nonetheless, again, noted one case, they have Havertree case, 1 upon 20. If you do the math, you see the answer. We cannot continue to use one case to take on the entire profession. And I'm saying that from and exactly what JT is going to tell you. Two cases, 0.001% of a profession, and then you put the entire profession in for a system.
All right.
Can I ask, what would you have again against this agency getting the concept of every team that police record can be pursued should it become necessary? What do you have against that?
Because by the time it becomes necessary, a child would have had a problem already. That's the only time it would become necessary. Would have had the problem already.
May I hear from Member Brown? Member Brown.
Chairman, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The committee at this last meeting took a decision. I appreciate Member Cam Rodriguez raising the matters arising from the meeting. I want to reaffirm my support for the decision of the last thing. I stand by that, and I really believe we have hear the matter relatively full. Member Campbell Advocates has put her position, but believe, and it's the committee which is just to revote the decision of last week is a committee decision, which must be respected. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry I did not. I'm sorry I did not my camera on, but you get my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Brown.
Chair, I was here, and I find the comments on both sides being very interesting. But then, again, we have a system where the percentage of teachers who would have been convicted very, 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 very small, as Dr. Gordon would have indicated. And so we make a determination if we're going to impose legislation that calls for the police record to be a requirement when a place an added burden on the system and also on the applicants. And different applicants may have different experience depending on the day that you may want to pursue it. The committee has made a decision. I respect the concerns raised by Member Campbell Rodriguez, and I understand it. But I'm inclined to support the committee's recommendation.
Thank you, Gail. Member Hamilton?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. I don't want to rehash all that Senator Campbell Rodriguez went through just now, but I am here to say that I'm in total support of what she just said. And it does not prevent us from trying to find a system to facilitate the need of the police record to be done. Not going for it, because as I think she has expressed herself very well, but I want her to reflect thoughts that I am not in agreement with the decision of the committee.
Sorry, member, you were below. You're not in agreement with what?
The decision of the committee relates to the need to have the police record.
All right, members, we've heard dissent, and it'll be recorded. So thank you. We will proceed. Thank you, members, for your intervention.
Madam Chair, if I may, just a little clarification. Is it that the committee is accepting the request for a rendition of 38.3 after it is amended, having taken reference to the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offender Act? That was the first point Member Rodriguez raised, and Ms. Wilkins indicating that the provision be amended by taking out reference to the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act.
Just speaking for myself, I think I would accept that suggestion, especially since it seems as though we're removing the requirement. It seems as though the committee is removing requirement for police. Then yes, that clause becomes even more important.
Ms. Watkins?
I'm just say true that I'm sorry, Ms.
Wilkins. Yeah.
I was just I just line up to say that we could strengthen that provision by ensuring that the individual concerned swears to makes a statement of truth, referring to the truth of whatever it is they have put. I think that may already be there. So if it is discovered subsequently that they had a conviction which they did not disclose, then that is something that the council can act on.
Sir, Ms. Wilkins, I'm not sure I've heard and understood everything you said.
No, I was saying that I believe already there's a requirement for a statement of truth to be included in the documents, in one of the documents that the teacher would sign or out to submitting council for their registration and licensing. And if the requirement to disclose a spent conviction is there, and it is covered subsequently that there was a conviction that the individual did not disclose, that non-disclosure would of itself become something that the council could discipline the teacher on or against them in a stronger way if they wish.
So, Ms. Wilkins, are you suggesting that because it could be a false declaration or not provide the information? Now, in some legislations, you have a conviction for the false declaration or not providing information. Are you suggesting in this case that rather go to a conviction, you pursue administrative discipline?
No, I was saying that the council would have the discretion to determine if they would go for the extreme act, which would prosecute them for having falsely stated information about their criminal past, either not closing it or discussing only some aspects of it, essential. But I'm thinking that would be in the discretion of the council to determine, having regard to the situation, because sometimes different situations require different levels of action. Having regard to the situation, the council would have discretion to determine. We need to move to the extreme when this one is very serious and this person disclosed or were not honest in the completion of their action.
I would just want us to be very, very clear in terms of what the requirements are, because you have some cases where persons would have indicated that their conviction would have been expunged, but that doesn't say that they weren't convicted. And so any declaration that is being made, being pursued by the council would be one to be very clear that if you had a conviction, you need to declare it. So
a conviction that has been expunged, though, member.
Sorry?
That need not be, well, the law says if your conviction has been expunged, you do not declare it. We're not talking about convictions that have been expunged here. We're talking about conviction that that would remain on the person's police report.
Okay.
But they don't submit the police report. You are saying to them, tell me, were you convicted of any offenses? They don't have to tell you. It's a conviction for which there was an expungement. But let me say though that the Criminal Rehabilitation Offenders Act does not provide for expungement of serious offense. It does not expunge sexual offenses. It does not expunge a significant number of last offenses. It does not expunge firearm offenses. I could go down the line. Think of a serious offense, it's not expunging. So I hope that gives some comfort.
I'm much clearer in terms of a possible intent we could pursue. As for the idea of having the requirement for the declaration, and if there are no declaration or false declaration, then the council shall treat with it.
SG, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. In fact, this was discussed at the last meeting. In fact, I remember advising about the use of voluntary declaration, which is what the legal reform is speaking of. And that was part of the discussion, and it's on page 6 of the minutes as it relates to paragraph 38.6. And so the vision was supposed to be reworked so that persons would have to declare and then they would have to swear to it or affirm they have no previous or prior convictions. As it relates to clause 33, it's not just a matter of taking all the words criminal records rehabilitation of offenders as act. You would not be using words spent condoms. What you would be requiring from persons to do, which is what professionals do, is to say that, declare that they have no prior convictions. And this we convictions that would appear on the police record. A spent or an expunged conviction does not appear on a police record. So I'm just reiterating a little bit of what the Director of Legal Reform said, but just to clarify that the amendment to clause 8.3 would be a little more involved than just moving the name of that.
All right, so committee members just wanted to confirm changes that were proposed for clause 38.3, terms of the state of truth be included, and the fact that if there's no disclosure or false declaration, there would be a course of action. Is that the totality of the changes that need to be made, Shoreline? Okay. All right, members, do we accept?
Accept those changes, Minister.
All right, thank you. Member Gill?
I'm good with that, Chair.
Okay. Other members, Member Miller, Member Hamilton, Member... Okay, all right.
Chair, that's happening now in business, you know. Someone law falsely declared, didn't clear something. It represents an offense relative to the policy of the organization. No problem with that being stated here, but I'm not mandatory post records.
Okay, and it also agreed that there would be a request for Joe to agree for the DC to request the police record as well, if needed.
You mean, Chair, if JTC is of the view that there's a need to ascertain police record, they can make that request. That's absolutely clear.
All right.
May I ask, Madam Chair, may I ask?
Sure.
What are the factors used to determine whether a police record is needed? If it's not after a crime has already been committed against a child?
May I respond, Chair?
Please go ahead, Dr. Gordon.
Complaints coming from the profession or coming from a person outside of the profession and of the public? Thank you. And I don't want to go into various areas, but that is definitely one area.
All right, Chair, I want to be very clear that I don't support the call for the mandatory police records, but for us to include the provision that the request can be made if necessary, if the need arises. But I don't support mandatory call for the police record.
Noted, member. And I believe last week, Ms. Sherland and Mr. Gordon Jones, you can let me know, but that at the last meeting, it was definitely included that JTC could have the teacher give the authorization for the police to be requested. Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Gordon Jones.
Just indicating that is the current problem in the bill.
All right, thank you. We'll move on. Technical, anything else? Technical.
So, Madam Chair, does that mean then the course schedule 1 will be reworded?
Schedule 1A, remember?
In the fourth schedule.
Fourth schedule 1A. Ms. Sherland,
the first.
Gordon Jones.
Because as written now, it implies a criminal record check is compulsory. Will be done.
If I may, Madam Chair, please.
Please go ahead.
I just want to be clear. Are we saying as a committee that the police record is not mandatory? Or are we saying that because there was a discussion as well in terms of the first time registration for the council that would ask for police record? I just want to be clear in my mind as to where the committee is and what are we going to do in terms of the police record. I'm of the view, Madam Chair, personally, that I believe that police record should be taken. I am of the view also, I understand that situation occur between individuals, and I did a police record myself just a week ago, and it was a smooth transition for me. You know, I joined the line just the same. I got my record on time. You know, I have a little off spot. I understand and be very burdensome on the teachers to really go there and to do the record, and it's a lot of teachers in the system. But I'm of the belief as well that we're dealing with you know, and within our care, and we want to ensure that the persons that are in front of them is of good standing. And you know, as a team, we have to really discuss and know there was vote taken. I'm cognizant of that, but I think as a committee, we have to really think it thoroughly, think it through, to find what's the best suitable way or where it can meet each other at a midpoint in terms of going forward with new legislation. Is it a situation that we're going to just do it good one time, and or we're going to come back later on for amendment? So some of the things that we have to ask ourselves, especially on this issue. So I'm seeking clarity if this is concerned. Thank you, Madam.
So, Member Miller, I do not believe this issue turns on the fact that it's difficult, can be difficult to get a police or time consuming or whatever. I don't think it turned that. That
No.
was just the experience of Dr. Gordon.
As stated earlier, Madam
Right,
Chair.
right. But
Yes.
it doesn't, yeah, it cannot on that because processes can always be reviewed, revised, streamlined, and that there is automation going into that process that will make it easier. I think it was more the very, very, very low statistics, which was more of a factor. But
Agreed.
to offset all that, there's a requirement to declare that you have no previous or prior conviction, and if that is found not to be so, there's non-disclosure, there's false detection, then there is a serious course of action that would help.
Well, Member Campbell Rodriguez had asked whether or not there would have been an amendment to the fourth schedule one of the fourth schedule in light of discussions that have taken place.
Madam Chairman, through you.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Yes. Perhaps we change the word "the" to "any," because it says in determine whether a person is a fit and proper person to teach, the A shall take into account the results of the criminal record check, which may give the impression that in every instance there is a criminal check. So perhaps we could say any criminal record check, or say words to the effect, where applicable, a criminal record check. A criminal record check. Because by saying the criminal record check, it gives the impression in every circumstance you will have, each teacher will have a criminal check done on them, when that is not the case. Only where based on the circumstances it becomes necessary.
I can live with that here, but I'm not responding on behalf of Senator Campbell Rodriguez.
As much as I'm being asked to live with the fact that the criminal record check is not compulsory, in support of the change of the word.
All right, there's been adequate discussion on this. We note all the interventions. So make sure we'll move on to the next matter.
Go ahead. May I just intervene?
Go ahead, Dr. Gordon.
That the discussion is not moving criminal records from the early childhood program. That stays in place. The discussion is about all teachers that teach at the higher grades.
Just a question to you, Dr. Gordon. Let's say we woke up tomorrow morning, the process was as ABC. In minutes, you get this record check done. Would that change anything in your opinion?
I will have to reflect some more on that, Minister. But I would appreciate that I don't have to make a response to you at this moment.
All right, so I'm just objecting with that it can't be the process why we're not requiring it. Go ahead, Ms. Sherla. You know, I really want to respect the dissenting views, and I don't feel that to just carry on to the next thing is satisfactory. So I'm going to ask we just come back to this in the next meeting. All right, thanks. So we'll move on.
Chair, since we're going to come back to this next meeting, and maybe based on discussions, views may change, could we then ask for some statistics to show how often we have certain incidents in the school, help to better inform us? And could the Gordon repeat the rationale, what it is mandatory at early childhood level, not mandatory at the level? So we could have that information ready for review at the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Member.
What I wanted to ask is if we are going to come back, discuss this matter, it must be some guidance. Not just to come and deliberate and we keep repeating our concerns, because we can continue to repeat our concerns and don't come.
We definitely need some to.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is whether or not having taken into consideration concerns raised, if we're asked technical team to give us some guidance based on concerns were raised and the different recommendations were presented. If the technical team could just some guidance, because I really don't want to come back and for us to be deliberating and continue debating on this matter without having a sort of a targeted focus objective of agreement.
Yeah. Also, then if we're going to do that, and thank you, Mr. for facilitating this. Is it too much for us to ask for the representatives from youth groups that submitted to us? Is it possible for us to send an email to them and asking their position on this matter? Because as written, they all read the bill with the idea that it was compulsory. If we're now taking it out, it's unfair to ask the persons who submitted, especially the young people, the ones in the schools, their thoughts on that. As written now, the bill implied that it's going to be compulsory. So if we can ask, that's not just of the technical team, but of stakeholders, I think it would help us a lot. The parent association, and youth groups are the ones suggesting we primarily ask for their thoughts on the matter.
Noted, Member.
Minister, just to clarify, falling back on what Member just said, as it is now in the bill, was not stated for it to be mandatory for all teachers to provide.
It was implied, not stated, because I read it again back to Schedule 1A. When I read the bill back to front, I was left with the impression that it was going to be mandatory. And I'm only pointing to that section that pointed to it earlier. So it was not stated, but it was implied. And I'm not the only one who the reading of this bill believing that it was going to be mandatory.
Chair, may I just indicate that I did not want it to be mandatory in the bill. What I understood is that I think it was Parent Teachers Association who raised the issue of moving beyond the early childhood sector. And so it was in the, so it was in response to that the matrix brought it into the discussion. I remain firmly that not be mandated to be on the early child education sector. And but you say we'll come to it, so I wait that. But I just wanted to clarify that I don't recall it being in the bill. And remember, Cam Radic said it's implied. Implied in the bill, has to be explicit. And you could point me to the section where it's explicit.
On page 72 of bill, member Brown, which is why we need to change the word from the to or any, whatever the change was. I don't legal team would have agreed to change the word from the if it didn't stand implies something. So it's page 72, with the fourth schedule, section 1A, the first sentence implied with the use word the.
Additional share, I don't recall there being any.
Is that Ms. Wilkins?
Hamilton.
Not hearing you.
Not hearing me, Chair?
Okay, now I'm hearing you.
Okay, I'm saying that I don't recall anywhere in the bill that speaks on only the childhood, person in the early childhood institutions as being the ones who require a peace record. So is it that is now going to be expressly stated, since we need to expressly state these things? The bill speaks to an applicant, and it didn't say which specific account.
So Member Hamilton, sorry, so you're saying it say what, or you're just querying what's there?
Chair, based on the discussion, I've been listening quite keenly, and it was stated that the requirement for a police record should actually only apply to early childhood institutions. The bill is now does not say that specifically that it is only in the early childhood institutions that this is mandatory.
Enforced for years.
In this legislation here, Ms.
Where in it? Because as I didn't see it either.
So we could decide what we want to apply these clauses to as we fit. They must be stated in the legislation.
May I say that, Chair?
Please go ahead, Dr. Gordon.
That is enforced now, it is in the Early Childhood Act. The requirement for a post record is in the Early Childhood Act.
Yes, Ms. Gordon, but you said it was
enforced. It has been in for years. It has been enforced for 4 years.
This legislation, Ms. Gordon, it is not in this legislation, which is why we're having it. Because obviously, we are thinking that one thing can apply when the legislation does speak to it. We have to be very clear as what it is that we want and how we want the legislation applied. As it is now, it is general. So anybody reading the legislation will everybody needs to apply for it.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Nowhere in here says it's only for early childhood.
Right. Because the Early Childhood Commission, which is a statutory body, had put that in place years ago, and all teachers in the early child program, whether they are trained, untrained, or qualified instructors or caregivers, wherever they are in the program, they must have food handlers program, food handlers certificate, and a police code. It's a requirement for early childhood.
Where I agree with that completely. We're saying is this bill, the one in front of us, does not state that. As such, the implication is there that it would be for everyone. That's all we're saying. We're not going against that it's in the Early Childhood Act time, but this bill did not make that decision, and you have to treat each bill separately. So because it's written somewhere else for it to apply in this bill. You'd have to state it as such, and it's not.
All that I'm saying.
And on page 2, just to go back, those the suggestion that it's not implied on page 2, 36(2)(b), the way it's worded, a consigned by the applicant for the council to conduct a criminal record check on the applicant in connection with the application, or if the application is granted. So as worded, again, I thought it was compulsory. So I think the persons who were given the bill view should be given that opportunity to give an opinion that we're changing what was implied.
Go ahead, Ms. Gordons.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at the bill, and in the instance where it was referenced under 31(2)(b), that in the case of a person who intends to teach early childhood institution, a consent signed by applicant for the council to conduct a criminal record check on the applicant in connection with the application. This is only in relation to application registration. It's so what I am looking at, teacher can be registered and is not licensed to teach, or you can also have an instance where a person who is not a teacher, a registered teacher, can also teach in an early childhood institution, and therefore in that instance it would be a situation where the early childhood act would have to apply in terms of the police record check, because in the instance where it's showing that it's mandatory for early childhood is in relation to registration. And remember, an authorization to teach does not apply to a registered teacher. So I think as we have proposed, some further consideration needs to be had in clearing up the entire provisions where the police record check is required or consent to be taken.
All right, we'll accept that. So with that, I don't explain. I'm sorry,
Chair,
who's that?
Chair, just wanted to clarify something. The reference is section 36(2)(b). That is a provision for consent to be signed, not a provision for a mandatory record check. I'm just saying that I don't think that provision is saying that. I'm not saying that for me.
So, Mrs. Wilkins, you read this to mean if the council is of the view and have reason to believe that this criminal record check ought to be done, then there's a requirement for the applicant to consent?
Well, it is essentially providing for the council to be in a position to make the application themselves, because they have reason to believe that this person is not fit and proper, and they're actually trying to get more information about the background of this person. It is putting the council in the position to act,
right,
and not wait on the person to bring in
right.
a police record.
But just to link the intent with the consent of the person, because it does not allow the council to act on its own, notwithstanding the fact that the council may very well need to do the background check. Just putting together where the consent is required.
Well, the consent is required in the case of an applicant. The consent must sign in the case of an applicant. In the case of a person who is already a licensed teacher, it is in the case where there is suspicion on the part of the council that they need to sign this to allow the council to...
In order to proceed.
Yes. That is my understanding, section 30.
That's my understanding. Just wanted to make it clear.
Yes.
All right, so again, we're asking our technical staff to just help us bring some clarity to all of this. In terms of, I'd like to consider persons who are currently entering the teaching profession as well. You're going to bring together that there's a requirement to declare, and so if there's a requirement to give authorization, and let's look at that, see if there are any gaps in the process. At the end of the day, as was said by Member Rodriguez, it's this that we're doing in the interest and protection of the child, and so let us look at this again, that lens in mind, not necessarily from the hassle of process. And there was a request to come with just some more definitive statistics on this as well.
Before we move on, I wanted to ask of Ms. Gordon a quick question. How do we currently treat with teachers who are employed, those coming from overseas? And I'm asking because
I think we lost member.
Okay.
Member Crawford, I think we lost her. But the gist of the question is, how do we treat teachers coming to teach in our system overseas? And currently we do have foreigners in our system. How do we treat those? Is there a requirement for a police record?
Before they are employed, or some in the early stage of employment, they must present to the UCJ their certification. In fact, teachers would have, the school would have to the Jamaica Teaching Council the employment documents, or they would come, of course, through the channel, the regional office, and those documents, certificates, have to be subject to review of UCJ, University Council of Jamaica. In that review, the certificate is analyzed, and the program, the institution, gets response from UCJ. If UCJ is fine, the certificates are fine, then we ask for professional standing of the person. And we ask the institution and the employment, the institution that last employed the person to give us the certificate of professional standing. And of course, they are Jamaicans, fine, but they are not Jamaicans. They go through the work process. Actually, it's not very easy for foreign teachers to just come into schools. There are lots of checks and balances. And we do foreign teachers.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Please carry on. Go ahead, Charlotte. So we'll move on to the next.
Minister, are we going to the matrix now?
Yes.
Okay. Very well.
I think we left on clause page 2023, 45, application renewal of license or authorization to teach. Page 23, clause 45. And there was a recommendation to remove section 45, 4A and B. But I think instead of removing that, I agreed to the response 3 years to be reduced to 2 consecutive years with authorization to teach, and then can apply for a license. That's what I recall. So are we in agreement with that? Committee members? This clause deals with those situations in which teachers exit the system for whatever period of time, and then this clause saying that if you come back in the system, you have to be working in it for 2 consecutive years with authorization to teach, and then you can apply for the license, because during that time you've gone through at least 1 appraisal in that period of time.
I talked with you on that last week's meeting, Minister. My position remains the same. I'm supportive of it.
All right. There is consent, or we can all agree on that one.
Mr.
Yes.
If I may, in terms of it was 35, and Dr. Gordon indicated that for those teachers who are outside 5, those teachers who have been outside for less than 3 consecutive years, which will be turned to 2, they will get authorization to teach. As I was discussing with Dr. Gordon, the sitting before, we had indicated to Member Rodriguez that based on the provision under the Act, only a teacher who is not registered or licensed, a teacher who is registered or licensed can get an authorization to teach. So based on Dr. Gordon's indication last week, it would be contrary to what is in the provision under 37. So what I was suggesting is to remove the clause under 27, 28, 2, which we currently read that notwithstanding subsection 1B, a registered teacher was not practiced as a teacher for at least 3, which will be 2 consecutive years in the 5 years immediately preceding the date application for the license, may be granted a license under this Act, subject to such conditions as may be imposed by council under section 30. I was thinking that this vision can be moved to clause 37 and make it a new 37 3 to read that notwithstanding a registered teacher was not in practice as a teacher for at least 2 consecutive years, and it continues, may be granted an authorization to teach under this Act, subject to such conditions as may be imposed by the under section 30.
Okay, so just clear, you're saying if a teacher has been practiced for a while, you put it at a maximum number of years or a minimum?
It's 2.
if she hasn't practiced as a teacher for 2 years,
Right, a registered
and they
teacher.
come back, a registered teacher, and they want to come back to the system, come back with an authorization to teach, right? But then they to be in the system for two consecutive years.
Right. So in order to get a license after the authorization, and with authorization, there would be some conditions that would be imposed on the authorization to teach in order for that teacher to get a license. Because as I said, it's stated in the bill that a teacher is not a registered or licensed teacher, and who teaches or proposes to be an instructor shall apply for an authorization to teach. So a teacher who is a registered teacher not be given authorization to teach.
Okay.
But based on what Dr. Gordon said, the teacher is registered and is out of the classroom period of time. That's when that teacher can get authorization to teach. But there is no provision for that now. So the provision that obtains under 28.2 would be applicable. So it would need to be removed from 28.2, put under 37, and be reworded from license to authorization to teach.
Let me just understand. This is the teacher that would have already been registered, but would have been out of the system for at least two years, would get this authorization now to teach for what period? The authorization be, would the authorization last?
2 consecutive years.
2 consecutive years,
Right,
and
to
the
allow
2
for
consecutive years would that for some sort of an assessment. Okay.
I'm in agreement. I know difficulty with the post. Shift.
Not hearing you.
I'm in agreement, Chair, with the proposed shifting of 28.2 to, where was it? 37? I'm in agreement with the amendment.
So committee members?
Agreed.
Okay, so
Agreed, Chair.
okay, all right, agreement on that. We'll move on to clause 36, in which council may decide application for renewal of license or authorization to teach. We have 2 comments, one from the Jamaica Teachers Association, one from the Teachers of Jamaica. And so there was a recommendation for section 46, and the response from the technical team is that would be taken on board and meant to include notification to employer. So saying section 46 speaks to the manner in which the council may decide an application for renewal of license or authorization to teach. It is recommended that in regards to subsection 5, which deals with the situation where the license is not renewed, that along with the applicant, his or her employer should be notified. And we agree on that. Committee? I don't believe there's any argument against this to give vacation to the employee. Yeah. From the Teachers Colleges of Jamaica, their recommendation is to remove Section 46(1). 46(1)(2) speaks to the applicant has not held the license or authorization for the period specified in. All right. Technical team, can you help us here to decipher this one? Is it the same line of argument?
Chair, I would want to know how this provisional licensing would work. In
Chair, I believe what we just discussed a while ago would pretty much cover the concern of the Teachers Council, Teachers College Jamaica. Because those teachers who are registered but not been practicing for the specified, we mentioned, 2 years, would still be to now come back into the classroom with the authorization to teach. So he would cover what the issue or the mystery by the Teachers College Jamaica.
I agree, member, but go ahead.
I agree, Chair. And just to ask the committee disregard the reference to a provisional license.
So there would not be a provisional license. So disregard reference to provisional license. Okay.
Madam Chair, through you.
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Perhaps we need to delete 46B2, as a person would be able to apply for an authorization to teach. Then they would not be concerned with trying to renew the license if they had not been in the classroom for 2 consecutive years.
Agreed, Chair. I agree with that as well.
All right, committee members. That was 46.
I agree with that, Chair.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Next section, there's nothing on, no comment, section 4748. We need to move to the next section, deregistration or revocation registration and license authorization to teach. And we have one comment there from the Jamaica Teachers Association. It's a recommendation. Both section 14.3 and 16.14 deal with revocation. However, the form stipulates that the individual has 7 days to surrender the license, whereas that states that the individual has 14 days. There needs to be consistency as there are consequences for non-compliance. You take that, Ms. Sherland? Section 49.
Minister, before we go there, I want to go back to 46(1)(b)(2), because it doesn't only deal with whether the registered teacher has been out of the classroom for 2 years, but it also deals with whether the currency of the authorization to teach, whether the person who desires to have an authorization to teach was not teaching for at least 1 school term or equivalent the calendar months. So perhaps for 46(1)(b)(2), we need to just take out 46, the reference to 45(4)(a), and leave the reference to 45.4b. Suppose the Dr. Gordon and the team will have another look at.
All right. All right, so I have it, Dr. Gordon, and we'll take another look at 45, 4A, 45, 4B, and 46, 1B2. Yes. And the issue of how we deal with teachers who are outside of the system. They were registered or licensed in the system, but they exited and want to return to the system. How we deal with those. All right. We'll move on. 47. There are no comments there. Section 47, the 8, no comments. 49, were deregistration, revocation of registration, license, or authorization to teach. Okay, sorry, we dealt with this because there was a correction. The response was that the bill would be amended at 43 to indicate 7 days. All right, great. Part 7, complaints, section 50. Make complaints against a registered teacher, licensed teacher, or instructor. Recommendations from the Medical Education Committee and the Jamaica Council of Churches. And they're proposed in the following for section 50. Because of the large portion of schools that are the owners or the national schools should have 4 members, and the oath that deals with the board, the issue. Section T. I don't, correct me if I where this deals with the board.
Understanding, Chair, here what the Ecumenical Education Committee is speaking to in section 50.
I don't think it's in section 50.
In relation to the bill.
The board, I think it's another section.
Another section.
Because we're not at the, I know it's a makeup of board they're talking about. That's not section.
But this 50. May have been displaced, so we can check on that where that may fall in.
Right.
In the scheme of
right.
things.
It may have been.
So I just will go to the JTA.
Right. Okay. So the JTA, with regard to complaints, disciplinary inquiry, and action. In relation to sections 50 and 50, it is recommended that the bill proposes avenues to deal with a complaint, namely referring the complaint to the ministry, or 2, referring the complaint to the board of the educational institution or the employer of the teacher, or conduct its own inquiry. It must be noted this bill is different from some other legislation, such as the Legal Profession Act, in that it does not distinctly provide for the creation of a disciplinary committee, and as it seems the minister can arbitrarily designate persons from the council to investigate a complaint. In light of the options, possibility of a response being called before more than one inquiry, it is therefore recommended that a council inquiry should be a bar to personal committee or employers and vice versa. And the response to the bill and regulations will clarify the process of inquiry. Yeah, yes.
I mean, when regulations take some time, and I don't know if in this case the regulations are going to come in time, but this is a very important area of the legislation that speaks to allegations or complaint being brought against a teacher and the process dealing with it. What the bill is suggesting is that there's an easy route to the complaints being made directly to the council. Now, what the DTA is suggesting is that there ought to be a very defined rule or procedure allows for instances that these matters be first dealt with at the local level. And us as trade unionists, these are something that we encourage and promote. So I'm not so sure that the matters of allegations or complaints or concerns should just trigger to the council.
Okay, but there should be a process whereby it's an option, because currently it exists, and Ms. Gordon-Jones, you can correct me. If it's a complaint, it would be lodged with the board by Ms. Gordon-Jones, and the board takes go through certain procedures of which they need to do it properly, that it doesn't become, some technicality that would have the case thrown out. The board is supposed to trigger the disciplinary committee to investigate the case and return report to the board, and then the board would make a decision on the matter. There's also an appeals process currently that exists. In practice, this is what happens, but my understanding is that there are situations in which persons feel they will not get the full attention either of the board leadership or school leadership with regards to this matter. There are instances in which they felt it's been ignored and not dealt with properly. So I think we wanted to give another avenue for persons to bring these claims. I don't know. Dr. Gordon, did I get that right?
Chair, in the case of the Labor Relations and Industrial Disputes Act, all employees can't just run the industrial disputes tribunal like that. It causes some sort of a roadblock. And in this case, whilst the suggestion is that they may opportunity can arise that they will. And I'm just concerned about opening up an avenue that allows for matters to run straight to the council. Which may very remove the opportunity for the internal mechanism to operate.
Chair, I believe the ability to make a complaint can be tiered. So yes, they will to the immediate supervisor or the board. I believe that a safeguard should be placed in the legislation that will allow complainant to be able to bring the complaint to the council if after a period of time nothing is done at the board level or school level. I think that can help the decision somewhat. So yes, in the first instance, you take it to your board. But if after a period of time there is no justice being served, then that person should be able to take that complaint to the council for action.
So, Member Hamilton, grievance procedures are normally timed. And so, based on what you're suggesting, if it's
well, Senator, I remember we had this discussion before.
I thought you were agreeing with me.
No, it was indicated to us why I have that second aspect of the inclusion. It was indicated to us in this very committee that when things are brought before the board, complaints, there is no time limit within which that complaint will be ventilated.
So
which means that, and I saw that a problem. That is what currently exists. So I want to take it for granted that there is a time-bound component to complaints, because as it is now, there is none in the system.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. Agreeing with me.
One second, Member Gail. That's you explain, because I didn't. That was 100 correct. About the time nature of the complaint.
As it is now, Minister, there is no provision under the regulation in relation to the laying of the complaint. But once a complaint is laid, then there is a time bound when the matter is to be dispensed with, which is 9 months after complaint is laid.
But I thought third member Hamilton said that there's no time period. Is a time? However, I believe that right now it doesn't happen in that time period where it falls away. Right?
It does.
Right.
It does.
Right. Yeah, but we don't want it to fall away just because time has passed. We want for there to be another avenue for complainant. Right, Member Son?
Yes, Chair. That
yes.
is there.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
So Member Hamilton, I'm agreeing with you, agreeing with me, that there needs a trigger of time in the first instance for the matter to be heard and dealt with. What was referenced is that it ought to be disposed of within 9 months.
I'm not hearing anything. Is it on my side?
Yes, Natalie.
So, for it to be disposed of within 9 months, but that does not. There is no indication as to when it would commence, and we believe is that the commencement, the response to treating with it, there ought to be a timeline for action to be taken in the first instance, because those persons would have expressed the concern that they would have made complaint in, and there is no response. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. And grievance procedures normally have timelines to which trigger the commencement and even indicate a period for escalation. It was suggested that the bill and the regulations will clarify the place of the inquiry. Maybe we have a feel of that with the suggested timelines.
Right. I agree. Somebody has their hand up? Huh? Member Brown,
Yes.
go ahead. But just to say before you come in, I totally agree with you, Member Gail, in terms of laying out timeline for the commencement of the process, a period of time over which it should happen, and then to allow for another avenue rather than letting time pass and it falls away and nothing happens. There will be another process. So we need to be very specific in terms of the timelines. Go ahead, Member Brown.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding of this clause was that it was going to be given to the council an opportunity to hear complaint, but that does not replace. This should not replace board and then the employee at the level. And so 50 should be right all the way to 54, where it sets up that regime where the council may get the report and then the council can determine how it deals with the report, whether it's reported to the minister or to the school, to the employers. So once that is clear, I have no problem with it because it is not a mandatory situation for the court. It says it's another avenue. It doesn't replace the schools and the boards. I'm comfortable with that. I share Cavan and Member Hamilton's position about time with the reporting, but then again, we may lose the purpose because if you report it to the school, it's to prevent reporting it to the council. And the school may contact the school and be told, well, we're dealing with it and be satisfied with that. So I don't necessarily see how the time will help because what that will do is prevent the complaints made if it conform with time, with the time limit. And so I don't even think of a time limit there to allow people to complain. Because, as I say, you complain to the school and on the board, or you may want to send it to the council. When the council decide to go back to the school, go to the minister, or whichever way they treat it. And of course, as Gail pointed out, the recommendation is that the regulations will deal with method inquiry, and I too would love to get a sense of what is the thought process there before the regulations come. Thank you.
Chair, just what the Chair.
Yeah.
In relation to what Senator Brown just said, the time limit is not in relation to when the complaint is lodged. The time it is in relation to the response on the board side, because somebody can make a complaint at any time, but we want to ensure that the board responds within a reasonable time, so that we know that the issue is ventilated. That's where time limit, member, and not in relation to the complaint itself.
Right, that was understanding, Hamilton.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Just to ask a question though, so I support the time frame as explained by Member Hamilton. Question though, what of a situation where a teacher is not comfortable reporting to the board or the principal? If we remove them being able to go directly to tribunal, what happens to that teacher?
Gordon Jones? Go ahead.
I'm asking member to clarify what she just said, please.
Okay. So there will be instance, Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just wondering, there are instances, and we have had those instances in this committee before, when persons were presenting to us, where persons may not feel comfortable going to either the principal or to the board itself, because they feel the board and then the principal are often, for want of a better term, in collusion. And I read it to mean that this option where they could go directly to tribunal was supposed to be used in those instances. And we had this discussion when we were looking at the sexual harassment bill, same thing. So they put a clause there which allowed us to report directly to the tribunal if they heard reporting to their boss in the institution. So I'm wondering if we remove the option to go directly to the tribunal, what happens to those persons in instance?
as Member Brown indicated, 50 ought to be read in conjunction with 51, because 51 lays out the possible response or actions that the council would take upon receipt of the complaint.
Yes, but if I'm afraid of a principal or board member, and I would direct it to the tribunal, it's fine for the tribunal, in my mind, to go back to the principal or the board. But as a person who the complaint, I feel much more comfortable if I have the tribunal with me in reporting. They may not rule in my favor, but I have support with me to make that complaint. While if I just went to the board and the principal, nothing.
But
I don't have the board.
But 51 says the council shall, based on the circumstances and particulars of complaint, either does A, B, or C. So one would assume that if I'm afraid of the board and I don't want to mix with board the principal because I might do them as peas in a pod, I would express that in my complaint, and the council, based on the circumstances and particulars, would either determine if it wants to hold an inquiry into the complaint or refer the complaint ministry with responsible for education for investigation. 51 prescribes the manner in which this could be treated if there is a cause for concern by complainant. But Minister, we can deal with this in our next meeting since we reach close.
All right, I know some members have to go. I do too, even though today would have been a good day to continue because nothing else planned for Parliament. But yes, we have a number of issues that we're even with the technical team as well to come back again. I think we're in the part of the bill that is becoming more and more technical and important for us to just have the proper outline in order to get.
One other thing, Chair, so we can probably discuss.
Go ahead.
There was a recommendation for inclusion of a part 5 under section 50A to include convictions. I think maybe next meeting this could be discussed as one of the possible avenues of being able to make a complaint. It was mentioned in prior discussion, so I think maybe we consider it when we meet again.
All right, thank you so much. Our next meeting will be Thursday, November 17th at 10 a.m. and so November 24 at 10 a.m. November 17 at 10 and November 24 at 10.
Chair, can I just respectfully ask that if any of these meetings are postponed for whatever reason, and then move to the next scheduled meeting date, and not just to find a meeting date? That have happened in the last meeting, a meeting that was postponed, that never moved to a scheduled meeting date, but a date was found. And so it would cause some of us not to be able to properly follow.
Agreed, Chair. Agreed. Because our schedule would have already been booked. When a meeting is just last minute, it's difficult for some of us to attend, which I wasn't able to attend the last meeting either.
Right. And it's understandable if a meeting ought to be postponed, but I would suggest that move to the next scheduled planned meeting.
All right, we agree with that unless the date is far out in the future. Right, okay, all right. Thank you so much, members. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. See you next time.
Thanks.
Every Jamaican has the right to know what is happening in Parliament, to know when new laws are being passed, and to give their opinions on legislation before either house.
Every Jamaican has the right to see representatives in action, making laws, hold the executive to account, represent the people, working for the benefit of all Jamaicans.
It is your right to observe firsthand the meetings of the Senate, meetings of the House of Representatives, and the meetings of parliamentary committees. You may also take a tour of your parliament.
To find out about the Houses of Parliament, please call 876-922-2200. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or visit our website at www.japarliament.gov.jam.
Just exit.
Instead of hurting and fighting each other,
let's help each other.
We don't need to fight.
We're all here to learn.
Your classmate could be future lawyer minister.
Do you know that your classmate or your schoolmate could be a future prime minister?
So here what? Just make daddy proud. Not me a worry.
Don't fight or lash out. Violence is never the answer.
Before you pick up a phone,
why not pick up your
and just meditate?
We all have our part to play.
Let's end violence.
Let's end violence.
Let's end violence. Let's end violence.
Let's end violence.
Let's end violence.
We must end violence in schools now.
The National Planning Board now presents a parent